guys. I'm gonna share my testimony, so it might, I don't know, just for context for everything that I'm posting, and so it might help someone else that's been on a similar road, I guess. Alright, I guess let's start at the very beginning. I grew up and my parents were Christian, but like a lot of Christians these days, from what I can remember anyway, just kind of, go to church, pray, very basic, like, it didn't go beyond that. And at 5 years old, Mum led me through the prayer where you ask Jesus into your heart. But yeah, it felt really special to me, even at 5, so that's kind of cool. I think I definitely had the Spirit of God in me from a young age, which is really, really amazing. I thank God for that every day. But even from a young age, I would have like horrible nightmares that I can still remember to this day, and I had a time where I could feel like a hand on my back when no one was there, and I could picture in my mind this hand, a very vague image, but it was like this demonic spiritual, I guess a spiritual attack, in a way. Like, it just felt scary, I don't know. So there was always the enemies there from the start, of course. And when I was 5, I also saw an angel. It didn't look like how you would picture an angel, and it didn't look like a biblical angel either. To me, it was like a glowing, like golden and orangey, like this golden glowing gingerbread man shape. It didn't have a face or anything, just like a vague shape, this glowing thing in the hallway, which was pretty cool. And it was probably like, I don't know, like the height of a man kind of thing, standing in the hallway. And then my little sister was a baby at the time, and Mum was sitting on the couch holding my little sister in her arms, and there was the same shape angel sitting on her shoulder, a little one. That was really special. That stuck with me my whole life. Anyway, just a cool little thing that happened. So I grew up going to church every Sunday, and to be honest, and I don't know if this is by design, but probably 90% of the reason I went was for the food. I'm a big foodie, and our church would always have little cakes and all sorts of things, and I would go for the food. I mean, we also had Sunday school, so we'd do craft and stuff, hang out with your friends, so that was kind of fun. But yeah, sadly, it was mainly for the food. But I don't know, like I guess it was a community thing as well, and I would enjoy helping out, like setting up the chairs or whatever, just helping out. And then when I was a bit older, about 14, I joined the church band because I liked music. So I'd play bass or keyboard in the church band. And I don't know, that was good, I guess. Anyway, around the same time, I would say, I just kind of noticed church was very organized, and it was like, I feel like this is supposed to be a gathering of believers, like the gathering with the Spirit of God with us. Like, shouldn't we be led by prayer, led by the Spirit? Why are we like, we have to meet at this exact time, sing 3 songs, sit down, listen to a 10-minute talk, stand up again, sing 3 more songs, then it ends at an exact time, like an hour from the start. Pack up the chairs, go and eat some cakes, have a tea, have a coffee, play with your friends at the park, go home. That was literally it every single time. And I was just like, it doesn't feel right. And like, why do we even have to be in a church building? Like, it would be so nice if we could do this at the beach or like go outside. It felt so organized and so contrived. Even as like a teenager, I was just like, eh. And I would end up sitting outside on the steps, like half listening, but like kind of tuned out because nothing was really getting through. And I would like just, pick leaves and make little crafts with leaves, sitting outside, bored of it. And unfortunately, our church, some of the pastors would say things that were just over the top, and like they didn't really know what they were talking about. Looking back now, I'm like, well, they were totally self-righteous. There were pastors telling us that, oh, don't even hold hands with the person that you're with, that you're planning to marry, because it's going to lead to sin. When if you look into biblical marriage, I'll link a video beneath because that explains it really well. One of my sisters in Christ and my brother, they ended up thinking they had to go and get married, have a wedding certificate, blah blah blah, when really biblical marriage is just being committed to that person and sleeping with that person, basically. Anyway, so don't hold hands, don't do this, don't do that. It's all self-righteous. Self-righteous is righteousness coming from your own understanding, your own interpretation. Righteousness, true righteousness, is the truth in the word that the Father has given us, in the words that Yeshua has told us. That's the righteousness. So, Christians will say, okay, never mind, I'm getting off track. Let's get back to the testimony. Sorry. I have a little bit of ADHD and all sorts of things. I'm not diagnosed, but my mind is like a carnival. Anyway, it's hard to stay on task. So about maybe 14, I was just like, man, I'm over this. And I'm pretty sure I ended up stopped going to church. And, I even some teachers in school, because I went to a Christian school, I remember one of them saying, if you don't go to church, it's bad. Like, you must go to church every week and blah, blah, blah. And yes, there is value in gathering with believers, but you don't have to go to a church building. You don't have to sit and listen to a apostate pastor for an hour. Oh, no, actually more like 5-10 minutes, honestly. Anyway. Yeah, so left church. I really struggled in high school. From the age of about 10 to 18, even beyond that, I really struggled with my self-esteem. I was extremely shy. I couldn't look people in the eye. I could barely speak. It was like pulling teeth to have a conversation. I had to train myself to look people in the eye in like year 10, year 12 to have a basic conversation. I don't know if it was, I think I might have a little bit of autism, but also there's trauma stuff. I think it was linked to that, like environmental issues, contributions to how I was. And also, definitely, I think the enemy has been working against my self-esteem so that I couldn't reach my potential and, be able to speak. Like, I couldn't make a video like this. I couldn't speak to people about the truth of the gospel. I still have my days. We all have days where we're not feeling confident. Anyway, but I just remember in high school I'd pray nearly every day and just be like, God, help me. Help make me confident. And that was a very hard time in my life. But praise Yah, I'm 31 now, and only now am I just becoming comfortable in myself. I'm only now able to be myself. And people that knew me when I was younger would think I'm a totally different person, because I'm actually quite silly, I'm quite passionate, I'm annoying, I'm cringy, I'm just yeah. Anyway, I'm not sweet and quiet like everyone thought. I mean, yes, I'm kind, and I generally don't speak unless I have something to say. That's a good thing, I think. Anyway, yeah, so I got through high school. Oh, what an experience, man. High school is hell. I mean, if you're a teenager, if you've been a teenager, if you're going to be a teenager, yeah, it's a very hard time in most people's lives. You're going through so much. But anyway, finished high school, left home, went on my adventures, which is funny because I was so shy and I'd put myself in situations where I didn't know people, where I'd have to find a place to stay in. Yeah, that was interesting. It just kind of showed me that my character isn't truly so reserved. It's just this front that I've been living up to because that's what people thought of me and that's how I felt for so long. Yeah, so late teens, early 20s, I might have gone to church here and there. I always felt close to God on and off. I would pray now and then, but like a lot of people, it was just kind of like I would pray for what I wanted and didn't really go beyond that. Yeah, God, like for a lot of Christians, was just there for when I needed him. And Yeshua is meant to be our partner, like our husband. Do you live with your husband and totally ignore them all day? For days, for weeks, for months, for years? Or do you talk to them every day? Hopefully you talk to them every day. And that's how we need to think about our Saviour, because if you only come to him when you want him or need something, that's just, it's not good. Not good. Yeah, let me think. So early 20s, I met my ex-partner, and my plan before meeting him was to wait for the right person and get married, traditionally married, how most people think of it, because I thought that's what Christians had to do. I didn't realize you could just be committed to that person, and like Paul says, if you're burning with desire, just marry that person, just be with them. And it's okay if you consummate the marriage, because that's what the marriage is. And there's rules for breaking up with a person, but it's not like you just sleep around, because that's fornication. Anyway, I was with this guy for 5 years, on and off. Very toxic. On my end as well, yeah. Anyway. And he was a big influence on me kind of heading towards the New Age way of thinking, spirituality. And I would literally say, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, I believe in God, but I don't know about the Bible, it's been changed, and I don't know, I think Jesus was just an enlightened man, and we can all be like that. We can all be equal, we can all be gods, and blah, blah, blah. Very dangerous New Age stuff. And New Age is like the devil's space, because it's like half-truth, big lies. That will get you to a place where you think you can be equal to God. That's the scary thing. I even, I did some, I'm just going to say natural medicine. I won't explain what that was, because it might get censored or something. I don't know how this works. But yeah, I did some natural medicine, very foolish, but I did a lot of it, and I had a crazy experience. I had a near-death experience doing that. And yeah, it was total delusion, because when you get to that point, you're opening yourself up to the spiritual realm, and it felt like I was in the in-between, limbo, purgatory kind of thing. It was very scary. And yeah, I had a moment of thinking that this was the truth. Oh, wait, I am Jesus. I am God. It was kind of to do with how there's a theory that we're all just parts of the universe, so that we're all God in just different expressions. So each human being is like a different expression of this one source. 100% wrong. Delusional. But, people are trying to find their truth, and Christianity is a bit iffy. And they are right, because Christianity has a lot of ties to false truths and Catholicism and all sorts of things. I don't even call myself a Christian. I'm just a follower of Yeshua. I'm just someone that's trying to stay on the narrow path. I'm trying to be a servant of God and help find other lost sheep. And yeah, anyway. So, so I got a bit new agey, and then I was like, well, I can just kind of live my way, and God doesn't care what I do. I'm a free person. And after the relationship, towards the end actually, and after, I would start listening to tarot, excuse me, tarot readings on YouTube, which is interesting because I would never, even then, I would never go and have a tarot reading, in person, because I was worried about opening spiritual doors, but yet I would listen to a video. And this stuff is all very real, and even watching videos of tarot readings is opening you up to the spiritual realm. And people that work in that space, and mediums and things, they're divining that information, and it's not from God. So if it's not from God, it's from the enemy. It's from evil spirits, from demons. That's basically it. And I even bought some tarot cards at one point, and then I was just like, I don't feel right using them. Thank God I did not, because that could have just brought a lot more crap. So listening to these tarot readings, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so spot on, so specific. This has to be true. And that's the thing. Yeah, it is. But it's not coming from God. So you can't be doing that. It's very dangerous. Because you're letting someone else open themselves up to spirits, dark spirits, and they are, it's attached to you as well, because you're opening yourself up by watching that or getting the tarot reading. What else? So, sorry. So in my 20s, very spiritual, trying to find myself. That it's very cliche, but I think it's just people's development. That's kind of natural when you're in your 20s. You're just trying to find yourself, trying to find what your purpose is, and all that stuff. Makes sense. I don't know. And towards my late 20s, early 30s, in the last couple of years, even last year or two, I just had a lot of different seeds start sprouting. A lot of different things popping up, little influences, and I was like, I didn't realize, well, I guess I did, but it was God pricking my heart in all these little ways. So, one day, just for background, I live out of my van, and I went to park at a spot, and I noticed there was an older man sitting on a bench, and I assumed he might have been homeless or something. Just, he's sitting out there in the middle of the night. He looked a bit disheveled and things. You should never assume. But so what I did, I just had this feeling I should go and help him. I was tired. I didn't want to. And now I know that was God telling me to go and help him. But anyway, so I was like, I'll just go and ask if he needs anything. So I said, I'm sorry, to assume, but do you need any help at all? Like, are you homeless? Blah, blah. And he said, oh, no, I'm fine. But I just felt like I should at least give him something. So I was like, well, what can I do? And I noticed he didn't have a pillow or anything. So I think I had 2 pillows at the time or something. Anyway, I grabbed him a pillow with a fresh pillowcase, don't worry. And I said, oh, I just noticed you don't have a pillow, so please just have this, so at least you've got a pillow for some comfort if you're sleeping out here. And yeah, he was really moved by that, and he really appreciated it. And he even said, there was another guy there with him, I forgot to mention, a younger guy. And this old man says, I've been talking to my friend here about God, and I'm just like, I'm really questioning, I don't know what to believe and all this stuff. And I just said, I need a sign, and then you come and you give me this pillow. And that was like, that was God working through me to show this man that he was there, that he was listening, to confirm and to stop the doubts, because that's how God works. It's not always, there's a lot of deception, like, it's a whole thing. I'm not going to go into it, but you know, not everyone's going to see an angel or have a crazy vision, or a lot of the time God will work through your environment, through the people around you. I was getting Christian videos pop up, testimonies on my YouTube. I hadn't looked up anything, and I started watching all these testimonies, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, like, I've been ignoring God. Why? Like, I know he's real for myself. Why? There's all these amazing stories. I can't be half-assed about this anymore. God is so amazing. Yeah, so just a few little things. And also that younger guy with the homeless man, he started asking me, like, what do you believe? Do you believe in God? I was like, oh yeah, I believe in God, but I don't know about Jesus. I think he was just a man, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this guy was, he was a little ignorant on some things. He wasn't quite on the ball, but he was definitely trying to speak to me and get me back on the track to God. And he planted a seed, and praise Yah for him. Great guy. Yeah, so just all these little things. And yeah, and also, you know, I got to a point in my late 20s and I was like, well, I'm free to do what I want. God doesn't care what I do. And probably in the back of my mind, I was also, like a lot of Christians, like, well, as long as I believe, then I'm saved. So it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you believe, right? Absolute lie, but and very dangerous one. So yeah, I was like, well, I've always wanted to just, yeah, you know, I'll try sleeping casually with guys, because why not? I'll just try that. So I did that, and I felt totally empty, like, yeah, it's just like, it's going to satisfy the need for a second, and then you're going to feel empty and like crap. But besides the point, it just reaffirmed, like, this is not what you're meant to be doing. You're not on the right track, because it just feels wrong. And I started sleeping with a guy casually but regularly, and I just got to a point, and I was like, I don't even want to be doing this. And I'm like, I need to go back to God. And then for some reason I thought, well, I don't want to be doing this casually. I want to wait for my person. I want to wait till I find my husband. And it just, not that that was the reason for going back to God, because, no, but that just that was like a big step, because I had to like fully cut that off to go back to God, and to, you know, to have self-respect and not be fleshly and wait for my right person. I want to be with someone that I loved and cared about, not just some random guy. It's so shallow. Yeah, so I just ended that, and it just I don't know, it was like I had to back that up with something. Like, I can't just stop and then nothing, because if it's just like, oh, I just believe in God but I'm free and can do whatever, I might as well just go do that again. But yeah, so I started praying more, and I had this moment after the natural medicine experience where I had a night and I was so fearful. I felt like there was an evil presence, or I just felt really scared, and I prayed and I prayed, and I realized I'd done something wrong in that experience. I had opened myself up to that spiritual world, and I shouldn't have. And my revelation about that was that taking drugs and getting to a point where you are in that spiritual realm, opening up spiritual doors in your soul, that's very dangerous. That was the fruit. It was like an example of the fruit of the tree of good and evil. And I had the message in my mind when I did that: you shouldn't have done this. This is dangerous. But anyway, God, praise God, he got me through that. And yeah, I'm probably never going to do that again. And, you know, people will argue it was just a bad high, whatever. It's definitely spiritual. What was I talking about? Yeah, it started out with me just watching all these testimonies, and then ones would pop up with people that had a really similar experience to what I had. And like, yeah, it was like the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is just like confirmation of what my experience told me. Well, God told me through that experience. Yeah, so I started watching all these testimonies, and then I don't really know what the next step was. I started reading the Bible again, and I was like, oh, I should probably go to church again, like at least be around other Christians so I can learn again and like have community. And I didn't really want to, because I don't like the structure of church, and also, like, you know, going back to teenager, it just felt like fake. And I was like, oh, I don't really like standing up and singing and feel like obliged to sing because that's somehow worship. Like, I can do that on my own. I can have a relationship with God on my own. I can worship on my own. I don't need this, which is partially true, but we also do need to gather with our brothers and sisters in Christ, for sure, and help each other learn, help each other when we're stumbling. That's what it's about. So being completely isolated is not good, but, you know, just going to a Christian church, that's not good either, because most churches today are apostate, and you won't realize that until you start getting into the truth and start reading the word properly. And so I started going to church here and there. I was like, I don't want to be doing this, but I need to be Christians, blah blah blah. And then I was like, well, I don't know, I was trying to find the right thing to do. So I started reading the Bible, and I read the commandments again, because I hadn't done that for a long time, and I was never taught that we were meant to follow them, that they were still relevant and necessary. Not by anyone that I can remember, not by any pastor. But once you're on this track, you'll realize why that is. Yeah, so I was like, hang on, okay, 10 Commandments, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wait. the Sabbath, seventh day of the week, Saturday, day of rest, no work, no buying and selling. Hang on, what? What? Why has no Christian I've ever known done Sabbath? Like, what? I'm going to do this because that's what the Bible says. And I read in John 14:15, oh, God says, if you love me, keep my commandments. All right, yeah, well, I'm going to do that because I love you, God, and I'm coming back for a reason. I'm not going to be half-assed this time. I'm not going to be lukewarm. I'm going to be hot for you. I'm not going to be cold. Cold is like atheist. Hot is like right, trying to keep in line with God every single day. In line with His word, not just your own heart, what you want to do. Lukewarm is, Christian, but you're not really following the word at all. You're just like, well, I think this, and my heart tells me this. Anyway, yeah. So and also I noticed a lot of churches recently have started having cafes and selling coffees, like cafes running in the church. Did these guys not read the story of when Yeshua goes into the temple and he's flipping tables because they've made the house of prayer a den of robbers? That's like a direct. It's like exactly what that's talking about. Like, why are they? Oh my gosh, it's just so apostate now, and it's nuts when you realize that. Anyway, but I was trying to figure out the truth. I went from the Sabbath and I was like, okay, well, I've heard about, I don't even know how I got into this, but head coverings, and I thought I had to do that. I didn't think it was a salvation issue at all, but I heard people talking about it. Really good arguments, for sure. But anyway, so I started doing that, and it did become a self-righteous thing. You'll try and convince yourself, oh no, it's just like a reminder that I'm subject to God and I'm submitting, and but then like I heard this story of a woman that was doing it, and she said, oh, something was happening outside and I couldn't pray because I didn't have my head covering, so I had to run and grab my head covering and then I could go and pray. It's like, and that becomes a stumbling block. It really does, because if you think you have to have this physical cloth with you at all times for every time you pray, and we should be praying non-stop, then what happens if you don't have it? Oh crap, I can't pray. It's a stumbling block. It really is. And I'm sorry to the women that have been confused by this, because I was as well. And it becomes self-righteous because you're in church like, oh, I'm the only girl with a head covering, I think I must be the proper Christian. And in your heart, that's the truth, even if you're not thinking that, and that's the truth of it. So head covering, and then I read about the feasts, and I was trying to study about what they were exactly and how to do them, and I was like, oh, okay. So I guess, do I follow I don't want to be part of a specific church, but I guess I have to be with like Jewish church people. I have to find a temple so I can find a group of people to do all these feasts with, because you can't really do them on your own. And like, I almost did that, and then I just at the right time, through Yah's timing, he showed me a video on YouTube. I don't even know how I found it, and I'll link this guy's channel because he does amazing work. He does Bible talks every single day, and yeah, I watched this video and it just set me on this track. Like, I had found another guy on YouTube as well, and he was close to the truth, but a lot of focus on like demonic stuff, and like that is all relevant, but just he's a little bit off track, I think. Anyway, so I found this guy Andrew, and he was telling all this truth, and right around the time when I was about to start doing feasts, I was watching his videos, and then I found one. I was like, how to do the feast? You don't. So I looked into that. I watched the video. I've checked the references. Oh, Yeah, we're not in the time. We're not in the land where Yah will put his name. Will put his name. That time hasn't come yet. We're not at the time where we do the feast yet. And that's going to piss people off because that's their tradition. That's what they think they should do to honour God. But in the end, you're doing it for yourself because you want to feast. Yeah, so it was like amazing timing. And then I found it, I followed him on Twitter. I downloaded X because I hadn't used it for like 10 years maybe. And I followed him on there and started listening to the Bible talks. And then he sent me a message, oh, do you want to be a part of our like discussion group? And so then I was introduced to all these other people on the same road. And I didn't feel so alone and so crazy anymore because I was questioning myself every day. I still do. But I always take it to God and I always check it with the Word and I know that I'm right. And all the prophecy just, when you see people saying you're wrong and that you're a Pharisee, all this crap, it's just all prophecy and it just helps confirm it because it is the truth. But yeah, I think that's the main story. I've probably missed something out. But yeah, so I've joined this group. These guys are amazing. They have taught me so much. They've kept me sane. They are my supports when my family, friends, people I know are just defensive and like upset at me and think I'm crazy without saying so. So maybe there's part of my story that resonates with you. But I guess a point I want to make is that if you're coming to God, you're probably likely going to go to church. Maybe go into Christianity and think that's the way. But just a little note, and something I checked the other day. We're meant to find the narrow path, which is hard to find. And not many find it. So the statistics are that there are about 2.4, I think, billion Christians in the world. So that's nearly a third of people. Do you think a third of people is few? If prophecy talks about 144,000, I'm not saying that's how many will be saved, but that's how many will become watchmen and help. That's a whole other story, a whole other video, but it's few that find it. A third of people is not few. So I'm sorry, but if you're just Christian and you say, oh, I believe in God and I believe that Jesus died on the cross, and you don't even realize that Jesus' original name is Yeshua, and that's important because in prophecy it talks about someone coming in their own name. See, Yeshua comes in his Father's name, Jehovah. So Jehovah and Yeshua comes in his name. Jesus is its own new name. Jesus comes in his own name. John 5 verse 43. And him you will receive. What is this character that has been promoted through centuries? This light, sweet, kind being that brings joy, peace, and love. Yes, that's part of Yeshua for sure. But he says, I don't come to bring peace on earth. I come to bring a sword. Your family is going to be set against you for my sake. Like, things are going to get really hard and bad, and this is not an easy road. But Christians think, oh, I just believe Jesus died on the cross. for my sins, and grace saves me, unmerited favor saves me, and all my sins have already been paid for, so I'm all good. What is the point of his death? And we're meant to live by his life, not just by his death. It's like Christians will focus so much on the fact that he died for our sins. They don't want to live by his life. Yeah, they want to be kind and nice and whatever, but they don't want anything to do with the commandments. And if they do, they think they can just do it through their heart position or something. I don't know. You have to do them in spirit and in truth. You have to actually do them. And yeah, it's a lot. See, I've gotten off track again. Sorry. Yeah, so Christianity, it's close but no cigar. You haven't. You're on a road for sure. You're on a road. But it's not the little bush track. There's no sign saying this is the way. I mean, it's probably a bad metaphor, but it's hard because it's not just face value. You have to actually read and study the word. It's not straight how it is written. Like, there are idioms, there are phrases that link back to other phrases to show a specific theme, something you need to learn. It's not about reading it like a book. So many people, I've read the Bible cover to cover. Oh, I've read it, yeah. Well, if you've truly read it, you wouldn't still be on this lower level. Like, you wouldn't still be saying, I'm just saved by grace, unless you realize. I mean, okay, you're reading the Bible. Go and look up the meaning of words in the Strong's Concordance. You can get the eSword app. I don't know. There's probably all different